Hello, and welcome to the virtual farm field trip today, hosted by the Arkansas Department of Agriculture and Heifer USA. I'm Sarah Lane, the Farm to School and Early Childhood Education Program Coordinator at the Arkansas Department of Agriculture. And we couldn't be more excited to partner with Heifer USA at Heifer Ranch to bring you this event. This whole month, we have been celebrating local for Arkansas Farm to School Month, from eating local foods, growing foods in school gardens or on farms, or learning about local food in our classes. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We couldn't do it without dedicated teachers, farmers, and communities, and we hope you enjoy the virtual farm field trip.
Hi, I'm Governor Asa Hutchinson. October is Arkansas Farm to School Month. The Farm to School program connects all parts of our food system. It helps students learn where their food comes from and why fresh, nutritious, and local food is vital to good health. They have the opportunity to go outside and put their hands in the soil of the school gardens. It connects our farms and farm workers to schools, which enriches our community and builds economic opportunities, as well as improving school meals. School nutrition staff, educators, farmers, and partners overcame the challenges of COVID-19 to ensure our students and communities will have access to Arkansas Farm to School activities. Thank you for your commitment to the education, to the good health of our children, and to teaching about local.
Hello, everybody. What a glorious day. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us live here at Heifer Ranch in Perryville, Arkansas. We are so excited for today's virtual farm field trip. We are used to having lots of visitors out here at Heifer Ranch, and we miss you guys. So we're happy that you could join us in a digital format and be able to interact live throughout the broadcast. We will be covering all of our garden here. We'll be showing you in depth just what we're growing, and we'll be taking your questions throughout the broadcast. So my name is Tyler Pearson, and this
Hey, it's Sean Pacera. I'm the garden manager here at Heifer Ranch.
Yeah, and we work here at Heifer USA at Heifer Ranch, and we are so excited for today's tour. We want to say a big thank you and a shout out to the Arkansas Department of Agriculture, their Farm to School program, and Sarah Lane from the program. They've been instrumental in today's live stream and getting this off the ground and bringing a high definition virtual field trip to your classroom, living room, or wherever you're watching from. So thank you to all the schools from around the state that signed up for today's live stream. There are dozens, and we're so thrilled that you could be joining us. And we just want you to know that if any time you have questions, please feel free to type in the live chat, and I'll be monitoring your questions here and answer as many as we can possibly get to. So the theme for October's Farm to School Month is all about growing local. Sorry, my mask is just all over the place. So the theme for October Farm to School Month is about growing local, eating local, and learning about local. So today we are going to cover how we grow local products here in our 3-acre certified organic market garden. Everything you will see today will include carrots, beets, turnips, radishes, lettuce, spinaches, and even tomatoes still growing this late into the fall. We've got a lot of stuff going on. We can't wait to show you. And so we're going to cover how we grow things here, teach you about how we grow things. But we also wanted to show you how local products connect out into the community, how the products that you see here at Heifer Ranch in the dirt go from the farm all the way to the market and end up in the shopper's hands. So we put together a short little video that showcases how that happens. And you sent us some of your photos and videos from around the state showing how you have been engaging in October Farm to School Month, and that is included in the video also. So enjoy this short video that showcases how that all happens, and we'll be right back.
Farmers wake up early in the morning at Heifer Ranch and farms across the state to harvest products that will be sold at market for the coming days. Local farms support local communities, creating good jobs and providing healthy, nutritious food to shoppers. Once the harvest is complete, everything from flowers to vegetables and local meat products is loaded up and taken to local markets, grocery stores, and schools for customers to enjoy. Farm-to-school programs in Arkansans from across the state have been celebrating Farm-to-School Month in October. Health and Wellness and Environmental Studies in Jonesboro educate students in their gardens, outdoor classrooms, and nutrition lab student kitchen. Students at Synergy ALE are growing crops like broccoli and Brussels sprouts in their experimental straw bale garden. Students at Forest Park Elementary planted their own radish seeds and are cooking them up soon. State Representative Mary Bentley is celebrating by buying local pumpkins to help support the high school band. A big congratulations to the Arkansas Grown School Gardens of the Year 2020 winners, including Fairview Elementary in Texarkana, Access Group in Little Rock, Fayetteville Public Schools, Hugh Goodwin Elementary in El Dorado, West Arkansas Child Development Inc. in Alma, and Carolyn Lewis Elementary in Conway. And a special shout out to all the schools, organizations, and businesses from around the state that are supporting today's live stream to celebrate Farm to School Month, including Lavaca Middle School, Jasper School District and Clark Creek Farms, Folsom Elementary, Master Gardeners of Pulaski County, Smith Ranch of Searcy, and the Creating Healthy Environments for Schools team at UAMS Northwest.
All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that video. Thanks to all the school districts and citizens from the state who sent us in their activities for Farm to School. So we're gonna jump right into today's tour now, and I'm gonna turn it over to Sean, and he's gonna show you what we've been growing. So again, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. And if the stream quality dips down a little bit or even cuts, don't worry, we'll bring it right back and make sure that you continue to enjoy the tour today. So Sean, how's it going and how's it growing?
It's going well. It's going a lot better now that it's not as cold as it was yesterday. That was a little miserable. We are entering a really fun time here at the farm. It's our big harvest season. So we'll do almost an acre worth of crops that we will harvest over the course of just a few weeks and put into storage that we can sell all winter long. And a lot of these crops are ones that, because they can be in storage, because we can pull them out of the cooler and take them to a customer in January, February, they work really well for the schools. And so a lot of these carrots and cabbages will find their way to schools across Arkansas. Behind me is our carrot patch. We have about a 1/4 acre of carrots, and we do that about twice a year. Right now they're just little baby things. But they'll size up pretty quick. We're doing a variety of baby carrots, of rainbow carrots, which are different colors, and then some like long-term storage carrots that'll get a little bit bigger. We've harvested these around January, actually. So what's cool about the carrots is that because they can survive the cold temperatures, the colder it gets, the sweeter the carrots get. And that's a really cool thing about carrots that are harvested in the winter. We'll plant this size planting twice a year. We do it in these rows. We're managing our weeds with different tools that come from all over the world. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about, jump into those?
Yeah, let's start with how we plant the carrots. Let's show folks what tools you might use to plant these carrots in the ground. Yeah, so this is called a jang seeder, and it uses these little holes right here. And the seeds fall into there, and then as I push it along, it drops seeds one at a time into the ground. And so that's how all these carrots are planted. And so whenever I'm seeding these, I'll seed it all in one day, and it comes out to about, I think each block is about 3/4 of a mile. So when we plant 2 or a 1/2 acre of carrots or beets, it's about walking 1.5 miles just
putting seeds down.
Wow. So if you stretched all these out in a straight line, it'd be over a mile?
It'd be over a mile. So with all of our root crops and our cabbages that we've done, it should reach from, it should go about 2.5 miles.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
a lot of carrots.
It's a lot of carrots.
And so this tool right here helps plant those so you don't have to plant every seed individually, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. And
Yep.
what's it called?
It's called a Jang cedar,
Jang cedar.
and it's from Japan.
Oh, it's all the way from Japan.
Yeah, there's a lot of great tools for small scale farms that come from all over the world, especially Japan and Europe have some great tools because they're, one's an island and one's a pretty populated continent. So there's a lot of people there, so they have to utilize these small spaces really well.
So let's give folks a quick little demo just about how it would work. So if you were pulling it and planting, just what it would look like.
Yeah, so I just dropped the seeds into this little container.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have them spaced out depending on what size or how big the plant's gonna get. And then I just start walking, and that's it.
And it drops the seeds down as you're walking?
It drops the seeds down as I'm walking and then covers them up with this little wheel in the back.
Oh, very nice. Well, we've got one question already about how we plant carrots. Let's see, Charm Cannon Moore wants to know how you decide what to plant and when.
Yeah, that is a great question. Because of our climate here, we get really hot summers and pretty cool winters. So I almost treat our garden here as 2 growing seasons. We do a big spring planting and a big fall planting.
Mm-hmm.
And timing can be tough because we need to get the carrots in early enough to where they can get to a better size, to the proper size before it gets too cold, and then they'll stop growing. They'll go dormant for the winter. So that is a struggle, and these carrots are definitely smaller than they were this time last year because we had that hurricane that came through, and it completely soaked the field to where we couldn't get in here in time. So we just kind of have to adjust. It's a science, and then it kind of becomes an art.
So it depends a lot on the climate, the season, and even the rainfall for that time of year.
The rainfall, and then what varieties. Some varieties will produce sooner than others.
And of course, who's going to be purchasing it? What do your customers want, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Great. We got another question from a classroom. So Amber Ryan says, my kids have a question. They want to know how to plant carrots, or more specifically, how to pick them and to keep them from turning bitter. So I guess they've been growing some carrots and they've noticed that they've been turning a little bitter to taste, maybe a lot bitter. But what tips or advice might you offer to help them improve the sweetness of their carrots?
Well, so like I said earlier, they will get sweeter the more that they get exposed to the cold. So fall carrots are going to usually be sweeter than spring carrots.
So if you're going in the middle of summer,
middle of summer is going to be tough.
Yeah.
They're going to need a lot of water, or you'll have to find a variety that's meant for growing through the summer. It's called a main crop type carrot. Also, there's varieties I think will work really well for schools. If your school has a school garden, I think Adelaide is a variety that's a baby carrot. So the whole carrot is fully grown when it's about that long. It only takes about 50 days, which is a lot sooner than other carrots. So those would be great for school gardens.
Okay, and another quick question, how do you spell the Jang cedar? Is it J-A-N-G? So J-A-N-G. Okay, so to summarize the question for Amber Ryan's classroom, growing in the fall, they'll be tastier when it gets a little bit colder. In the spring, try to avoid the summer months. And what are a couple of the other things you mentioned, just to summarize?
Using varieties that are shorter season or meant to grow in like a southern climate.
And so what have we done here that you might recommend?
So the baby carrots, the Adelaide baby carrots would be a good one. And then we did a main crop, which is like the ones that go through the summer, of rainbow carrots. Rainbow is the variety. And so every carrot, it's one variety, but every carrot is slightly different. They might be yellow or white or orange or dark orange. And so it's just really pretty when you start digging them up.
That's awesome. Okay, so we have shown how we will plant the carrots. What would you do next when they, after you've planted them?
Yeah, so we have to water them because we seeded these carrots at the end of August, so it's pretty dry. So we had to water them every day until they came up. And then once they come up, it becomes, we want to manage the weeds. And so that's where this next tool comes into play. And it's from France. It's called a Terratech. And so I can kind of give a quick demo of how we use that.
Okay.
And so yeah, so managing the weeds is really important because the weeds are going to start taking resources from the carrots. So the more weeds you have, the slower your carrots grow.
Okay, so you don't want the weeds to grow, and so this is a tool you can use that will help take the weeds down.
Yeah, these little wheels move and help mix up the soil, and then there's little blades in the back that help cut through the little weeds.
Let me show those up close so folks can see. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And that does it on the sides of your carrots, and it won't
on
hit...
both sides. It won't hit the carrots because they go right in the middle. So then I just walk.
And so if school gardens or anybody at home watching might not have one of these tools, what could they use instead?
So, I mean, really, you know, hand weeding and can work well, especially if you don't have a lot. That's hard to do on a plot this big for us. But, you know, just getting down there and finding out the bad weeds you don't like, that you don't want to keep, which is anything that's not a carrot, and then start pulling those out.
Okay, we got some more classroom questions coming in about carrots. Let's see, Miss April says, we planted Parisian carrots on September 15th, and they did not sprout. What could be some of the causes?
Yeah, so seeds, the older the seeds are, and if they weren't stored in a really cold temperature, sometimes they won't germinate very well. So I try and not save seeds year to year. I'll get all new seeds and just only buy what I will plant for the year. And then good, carrots want cool, wet conditions. So like I said, we water these almost every day for the first week until they start germinating.
So after you plant them, you want them to stay pretty
wet.
Moist, yeah?
Yeah, you don't necessarily want it, you know, holding water like a pond, but you want it pretty moist. You don't want the soil to like form a crust on top, you know, and then that way the seed can still poke through the nice moist soil.
Gotcha. So good fresh seeds, keeping your soil really nice and moist, making sure it has lots of sunlight, of course.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's see if we have any more carrot questions. Let's see. If you grow organic, how do you keep the bugs away from your crops?
Yeah. So our approach is not to keep all the bugs away. The way that we see our garden is not that it only exists to make food for us, but it's a whole ecosystem. And so we want to have good bugs that help keep the bad bugs in check.
What is a good bug?
A good bug and a bad bug, right? A bad bug would be a bug that eats your crop you're trying to harvest. A good bug is something that eats that bad bug.
Oh, so maybe like a ladybug.
Ladybugs are really good ones. For our tomatoes, we attract wasps, and the wasp lay their eggs in the worms that eat the tomatoes, which is pretty gruesome, but does a really good job of controlling those tomato hornworms that eat our tomatoes. So there's all kinds of hoverflies that their larvae eat aphids, the things that will, you know, especially in the wintertime, can attack lettuces and carrots and things like that. So what we do is because we have wild space, we have hedgerows that we're trying to have as much things that feed these predatory insects so they'll eat the bad bugs and then help keep the whole ecosystem in check.
That's great. So think about the whole farm and the whole ecosystem, and attracting beneficial insects can be very helpful.
Definitely.
And of course, just having healthy plants to begin with. You often tell our viewers that, you know, pests and bugs, they like plants that are not healthy, and if they're healthy, they're not going to invade them as much.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're leaning on this big piece of equipment behind you quite a bit. We've got a lot more to show folks, so let's talk about this, and then we'll move over to see some more beautiful leafy green things.
Yeah, so this is called a Tillmore Tractor. It's a walk-behind tractor. We're not really using tractors that we ride on here. Everything, we walk behind it. And so, you know, our impact on the soil is a lot less. This is basically a giant version of that first tool that I use. It pulls little blades through the soil. These little rubber fingers will flick out any weeds that are in the row with the carrots.
Let me get a little closer so folks can see this. So this is just for pulling weeds up, basically. Yeah, but if you're growing a lot, like we are, having some sort of machine on a smaller scale can really speed that up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one person could weed all this in like an hour.
Okay, so you turn it on, you push it, and then you said these things spin?
Yeah, the dirt makes these little fingers spin, and they flick out the weeds. It's like this.
Nice.
And then the carrots have a long enough root to where the carrots don't get pulled out, but all the other weeds do.
So you could probably do this whole field in 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, maybe an hour to do both plots. And it's basically a new way of doing a very old task. You know, what our great-grandparents would have had is something similar to this, but they would have had a mule pulling it, you know? And so we just replaced the mule with an engine. And
oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
All right, so let's move on from the carrots and see what else we got growing. You got a couple of crops here that we've pulled from other places.
Yeah. Just because soil can, or signal can be troublesome at times, so these are from other places in the farm, and we just brought them over. This is another one of our root crops. These are beets, so they're beautiful greens. You can eat the greens. They're just like Swiss chard, so you can eat the greens. And then just have a beautiful, beautiful color.
But let's see that again. What variety of beet is that?
So this is early Wonder Top. And we also do a striped beet. So all these rings will alternate red and white, and then we do a gold beet that is just all bright yellow. And so we find that the customers really like whenever we mix the different color beets together. And so when you roast them or you just slice them really thin for a salad, then it's just really delicious.
Yeah, well, that looks really good.
Yeah.
I love beets. They're very sweet when you cook them, and it's like a sweet carrot, even sweeter than a carrot sometimes.
Yeah. If you have good beets, especially if they start getting those cold temperatures, they'll sweeten up. If they weren't stressed from like hot summer weather, they'll be really sweet. And we kind of do those the same way as the carrots. I use the Jang seeder. We use the two weeding tools to help keep those clean, and they're over in that field that's actually getting covered up by almost like blankets. It's called agribon or row cover, and so because it's probably we're gonna get a frost this weekend. We wanted to go ahead and get those guys covered to protect them.
Okay, so let's walk over here to some of these other crops, and we're gonna answer. Yeah, you can bring that, and we'll answer a couple more questions. So let's see, Charm Canamore. I think she must have a lot of folks helping ask questions. How large is the garden total?
So 3 acres of certified organic grow space.
Okay, and of course the next question, what else do we grow besides carrots? And we're showing a little bit of that now, but maybe run through a quick list and off the top of your head of all the things that you can think of we grow. Yeah,
we grow about 25 to 30 different things. We do our carrots, beets, radishes, turnips, rutabagas. So think, root crops. We do cabbages and kohlrabi, cauliflower, broccoli, kale, and collards. And then we do a lot of different types of baby greens. So baby arugula, baby kale, spinach, romaine lettuce, head lettuces. And then in the tunnels, we do a little more specialized things like our peppers, heirloom tomatoes, cucumbers. We have a trial version of potatoes that's going right now. So a little bit of everything. We're trying to really do a really, full diet for folks.
Awesome.
Onions, garlic.
So a lot.
Yeah. Well, winter squash. Do a lot of winter
Speaking of other crops, you got another big, beautiful one right here.
Yeah.
And we have a whole field of these over there that you can't quite see from here, but there's so much to show you here. We wanted to bring one over and make sure you got a look at it. Yeah,
so this is what it looks like actually out in the field. This is a small version. This would also be a really good version for school gardens. It's called Tiara, just like the thing you wear on your head. And it develops into a full-size cabbage quicker than any other cabbage, and it grows really small. So you get a big head. This whole thing is what we would harvest. And so you're not wasting a lot. That can go back into the compost to feed the soil, and then this is the final product.
And that is, while a large cabbage, it's not as big as the ones you find sometimes in the grocery stores, and sometimes we have a hard time eating all that cabbage. So that's a really nice size.
Yeah. So a lot of our customers are retail customers. Product and then sell it in their grocery stores. that are also buying other local products. And what we found is that our customers, retailers, don't really like the giant cabbages because they're, like you said, they're really hard to finish. This you could eat in a single meal or just cut it in half and have one day, one the next. So you're not wasting a lot or feeling like you're just having too much cabbage.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
Some more questions from, let's see, so it's Pamela Canamore. And do you measure weight by bushel or baskets? And how do you keep track of just how much you harvest?
Yeah. So we don't use bushel or basket. We do pounds typically because that's how we sell them. We're trying to do, because we only have a crew of 4 people, and we're doing...
You grow all this with only 4 people?
Only 4 people.
That's incredible.
So we're trying to harvest as much as we can into the container that's going to go directly to the consumer. So like the cabbages, we know about how many cabbages will make a 20-pound case. And so we load up a 20-pound case in the field, and then that goes directly from the field to a cooler, to a van, to a customer.
Oh, great. So it's hard to measure exactly how many customers we serve, but we kind of have an idea just based off poundage that we produce,
yeah, I mean,
right?
we know everything that we, almost everything we're growing is getting sold. So that's probably 95% of what we pick gets sold.
Yeah.
Whatever doesn't get sold, we can freeze it and use it here on the ranch, like to make pasta sauce for our volunteer community. So everything finds a home that we're growing right now.
So we were talking about a lot of different crops. Let's show some more. We've got a lot lined up right here. Let's show up close just what we're growing here.
Yeah, so this is fennel. This is kind of probably a weird one for folks. They think of like just the herbs, but the bulb, this is Florence fennel, so this will form a large bulb that I like to just slice it really thin and toss it in honey and mustard and some baby arugula.
Fennel, nice.
Yeah,
Doesn't it have kind of a licoricey taste? Is that the one?
Yeah, it can have a licorice taste to it. If you roast it, it just gets sweeter.
Okay.
So roasting it with carrots or chicken is really good.
All right, so we got a big row of fennel here, and then these rows have already been harvested or being planted soon. But this one I'm showing folks was arugula, right?
Yeah, so baby arugula. And so it's already been harvested earlier this week, and it'll actually grow back to about here about 2 more times.
Oh, wow.
So we can get 25 pounds of cutting per bed, and then do that twice.
Okay.
And then we'll turn this over and plant something else here.
Very nice. So a lot of arugula, and then I don't know if folks can see, but in here, do you have something, it looks like you have something planted?
Yeah, this is baby spinach.
Oh, so, and they are just little bit
Just coming up, like as of a couple days ago.
Okay.
And so this was lettuce, and we were able to harvest the lettuce and then what we call it flipping the bed, turn it over, and then plant this baby spinach the same day. So that's how we're trying, because we only have 3 acres, we're trying to maximize how much we can grow.
Yeah.
So once one crop is coming out, another one's going in.
So, you know, a lot of school gardens and folks at home may be growing in raised beds, but we're not really doing much of that here. I mean, we call this a raised bed, but it's not quite the same, right? It's not a box, like a structure.
It's not a box. What I find is, you know, we tend to have pretty dry summers, and so those raised beds just dry out really easily. And so I actually prefer to grow what I'd say like in ground. We don't really raise these beds up. They have a slight raise, like you can kind of see where the walk path is. It's maybe a 1-inch raise just to let excess water drain away. But I'm not really a fan of the big raised beds, honestly.
It's harder to keep everything moist because that water just drains down.
Drains straight out the bottom.
So you don't have to have, although they are good and they do serve a purpose, but you don't have to have them, right?
Yeah, like if you're in really rocky soil, or if you're in an area where you can't, you know, maybe there's a possible water line under the ground and you can't go around digging into the ground, those have a good place.
Okay, let's see some of these other crops that we got.
Yeah.
What are these? These look like giant clovers.
They do. These are radishes.
Oh.
I'm trying to find one that's kind of swelling up. Little tiny baby radishes. Look at that.
All right.
So these are about a week old. And then probably in 3 weeks they'll be ready to pick.
Oh, that's very quick.
Yeah, it's super quick. 21 days to 30 days, and you get a full-size radish.
And you can eat those raw. You can eat them in salads. You can cook them too. They're pretty good if you cook them. Okay, let's see a
Yeah.
couple more of these, and then we're going to get to some of your guys' questions. I see a lot of them coming in. I just want to make sure you see, I mean, I'm going to show you just real quick. You can see there's a lot of different varieties here of things that we're growing in our garden. We do some smaller patches, well, it may be large for others, but it's small for us, you know, of different varieties. And then you may see that whole field back there with the blanket on it, and it's uncovered over there. Those are all beets. That's a whole field of beets. So just depending on the customer, the crop, and everything, it will depend on the size and the amount that we grow. Let's see, so this right here, let's talk about this one, and then we will answer some questions.
All right, so this is called Dino Kale.
Okay.
So it looks a little bit different than your typical kale, but it's really tender. And so you can actually just use this in a salad, toss it with some oil and vinegar.
Nice.
So this has been a really popular product. And then we also do a curly kale, and then we do these collards as well that are pretty popular. What we wind up doing with these guys is you can pick them for most of the winter, I'd say. And even if you plant them in the early spring, they'll go through most of summer. And the way that we pick them is we basically just take the biggest leaves off the outside and try and keep doing that until eventually they'll be about this tall, and they'll look like little palm trees out here. And that just helps us keep encouraging the plant to produce new leaves.
Okay, so you can harvest it while it grows, right?
Yep.
That's a good one.
Yeah, once the leaf is big enough for you to eat it, you just pull it off and it'll keep producing more and more leaves.
Nice. Okay, let's get to some of these questions. Let's see. Miss April, who had asked earlier about having trouble, I think, with getting the carrots to germinate, asked where can you purchase, or where do we purchase our seeds, and is there still time to plant some crops in Arkansas if they planted right now?
Possibly.
Where do we get the seeds?
Yeah, we get our seeds from Johnny's Seeds in Maine.
Johnny's Seed.
Johnny's
It's Johnny's Selected Seed Company,
Johnny's
right?
Selected Seed Company.
Can you buy those in the store anywhere?
I'm not sure, actually.
You gotta order through their
I think
catalog?
you can order through their catalog. There's also Southern Exposure, which is in the South, and Territorial Seed Company. They also have like varieties that are good for Southern growers. What was the other part of that question?
Oh yeah, sorry. Is there still time left to plant something?
There is spinach you can sow outdoors almost year round, or throughout the winter here. Radishes can also do pretty good if you have maybe if you have a blanket you could throw over them to protect them if we got snow or ice or something like that. And then lettuces do pretty well even outdoors. We've had snow on the lettuce and it melts the next day, and then the lettuce just keeps growing. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Mimi Evans, do we provide any excess food to local food banks?
We have at the start of the pandemic. We were finding banks to partner with, and now pretty much everything we're growing is going to small businesses that are either themselves providing like CSA boxes to low-income folks or people in need, or partnering with food banks, or that are like new entrepreneurs that have started new businesses that are kind of boutique grocers or small retailers.
Like the Bell Urban Farm stand that you saw folks saw in the video earlier. That's a brand new local grocery store working to sell local community products in Conway, Arkansas. And so we supply to them and other grocery stores like them. We've supplied to farm to school programs in the past. We have supplied to food banks. So we definitely use a lot of this produce to help support the local foods community and provide good access to healthy, nutritious food.
Yeah. It's really like a local foods ecosystem. There's lots of folks doing lots of different things, connecting the consumer to the grower, to the school, to the customer, and so there's really a lot of help that needs to be happening at all levels.
That's great. All right, let's show a couple more of these crops, and then we can take it over to the high tunnel here in a little bit.
All right.
What else do we got?
So these are our lettuces. These have been harvested twice already. This is a Romaine lettuce, and so now the weeds have caught up to it. So this afternoon we're actually gonna till this under and get ready to plant another round of lettuce.
Okay, so this is just like you would find in a salad from the grocery store and a school lunch line or anywhere, and it's just romaine lettuce, right? These get pretty tall, don't they?
They can. So what we do is we planted them really tight together. There's obviously a lot of weeds in here. So we've already cut this and harvested this. That's why some of the plants like look a little funny.
So will romaine lettuce, or do you just cut it one time?
We'll cut it twice, maybe 3 times, but in this case, we're just gonna go ahead and till it and replant something else. Because once the weeds get in it, we don't want weeds in the product, not because they're not edible, but just because it's a quality issue and folks don't like weeds in their romaine.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it looks pretty good. And what else do we got, Bob?
So we have Salanova lettuce. These are a head lettuce, excuse me, that we've already harvested. Kale and green onions have been really popular.
Okay.
Curly kale.
So if you guys have any questions while we're talking about these, you know, lettuces, kales, onions, just let us know in the comments and we'll get to those. And toward the end, you got just some more baby kale and green onions, right?
Well, green onions. These Salanova lettuces. These are really pretty. So this is a great variety for schools.
It's called Salanova.
Salanova, and it's a family of lettuces, so there's lots of different varieties. They can come in all different colors. As you can see, this field's looks, you know, very much rainbow. You could cut it like that, the whole head, or what's really cool is you can just cut it at the base, and then it's a spring mix. It like falls apart.
Very nice.
And if you leave it in the ground and then just cut the leaves off that you need, the whole head of lettuce will regrow.
That's great.
Probably at least 2 times.
All right, let me see. I'm gonna jump in here. So we've shown you guys a lot of the stuff that we're growing out here in the open air environment. And as you can see back there in the background, we've got a greenhouse, a high tunnel greenhouse. And now we're gonna go show you some of the things that we grow inside these conditions and talk about how growing inside a greenhouse can be beneficial. And it doesn't have to be a huge giant one like this, right? You could literally lay a small tarp over your raised bed and it would create that same condition, right?
Yeah, my very first garden was just 2 pieces of PVC and then a piece of painter's plastic that I got at Lowe's over the top of it.
And so we're going to talk about growing stuff in an inside, like a covered environment. Here in just a second, I'm going to make sure we don't have any more questions from these. And then we're going to go not into that one because that's a new one we just built. There's not anything ready in it yet. But right over there, we will show you some stuff that's still growing. And while I'm looking at the questions, talk about that little white piece of fabric. You mentioned the fabric before, but can you show folks just what that is and how you would use it?
Yeah, let's do a close-up of it. So this is like a fleece, you know, kind of polyester. It's not woven. It's kind of pressed together, and so you can see kind of how thin that is. What's nice about it is these thinner types of row cover. They can do dual purpose in that one, they'll help protect from the frost, so you don't have ice and things sitting directly on the plants, and keep it a little bit warmer. And then 2, they also keep the bugs off too. So we can plant the lettuce or some of our crops that we really struggle with, different pests in the spring.
Yeah.
We can put this fabric right over the plant, and it's going to keep all the bugs out of it.
All right, so that's actually a question that we had from Amber Ryan about, you know, what do we do to keep our plants safe if we get an early frost? And this is it, right?
This is it. We don't have to do this for a lot of our crops, just because we have such an early frost coming this week. Normally it should be mid-November, and now it's the end of October.
You can pick up this type of fabric just at your local hardware store or farmer supply co-op a lot of times.
I think the co-ops have it. Not Memphis, I'm sorry. Like Lowe's, Home Depot also carry it.
Yep. Okay.
And so, yeah, we can roll it up and put it away. It also does double duty as far as keeping the deer at bay. That's been our problem here lately. We've had a lot of deer coming to attack some lettuces, and so this creates that physical barrier.
All right, well, let's go over to the high tunnel that we've been talking about.
All right, it's a lot warmer in here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it is a good 10 degrees warmer at least, right?
At least, and that's with the sides open. So if we wanted it to get real steamy, almost tropical in here, we could put the sides up and close the doors, and the second the sun hits it, it immediately starts getting warmer in here. And so...
And what are we growing in here?
Well, we're growing, we have some radishes, parsley back there, some more lettuces. This is a experiment that I'm doing. This is potatoes. I'm trialing these out for a breeder to see how they do in our area.
Let me see how you're going to dig those up. That is actually a potato digger, isn't it?
Yeah, a little
Okay.
garden fork.
So you're growing potatoes in a high tunnel. That's not too typical, right?
Yeah, because we're, trying to do something a little bit, hit markets that other farmers maybe aren't in. Doing potatoes like these, specialty type variety.
Mm-hmm.
That's just really unique color.
Let's see there.
Aren't those beautiful?
Yeah.
And every potato is a little bit different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So we can mix them all together and they just look really nice. And what's great about this is we can have them in a season when other farmers maybe don't have potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Or so we can have them earlier doing them in the tunnel or have them later. And so that's our potatoes.
Awesome. And so, let's see, we got some more questions I'm going to get to in just a second. Did you talk about just the general benefit of I mean, it's obviously hotter in here.
Yeah.
And so it creates a warmer climate for crops and things that like warmer environments. What else does it do?
One of the main things for us, especially because we're organic, is that we don't want to spray anything for disease or pests, as that is a very much last resort. And we're even limited on what we can spray. It has to be derived from plants, so no like synthetic chemicals or anything. So one of the advantages to these tunnels is that they keep the rain off the plants.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the rain isn't hitting the leaves are protected from diseases that can potentially make the plant sick.
Gotcha.
And so we use this this kind of technique over in another part of our farm for our strawberries. We grow our strawberries under plastic like this,
Mm-hmm.
and it helps keep our strawberries disease-free, so they can be organic, no spray strawberries.
Okay. That's great. We're going to get to some questions. Dream Angel's Garden, how often do you water your fall crops when it's 40 to 50 degrees outside at night?
Let's see. For things that are outside, I think last year I stopped watering at Thanksgiving
Mm-hmm.
and didn't water again until like March.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not at all.
Not very much at all. You just want to get them, make sure they germinate, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, a lot of times your soil can look dried out.
Mm-hmm.
It'll look crusty. But if you dig down even just a few inches, you'll start seeing a lot more moisture. And so if I am ever uncertain of whether I should water or not, I usually will kind of crack the soil open and take a look before I just start, overwatering things.
Okay, another question. So let's see. Lee LC says, Eliza wants to know if you've ever let the farm animals help you clean up the fields, like eating the weeds after the harvest.
Yeah, we have done that once before. Actually, in this tunnel that we're standing in, we did an experiment with some roosters. We had an order that was incorrect, and we got roosters instead of hens. So to figure out what to do with them, we fenced off this area. We knew that the tunnel would be going here, and we raised the roosters for the season, feeding them all the scraps from the garden. So we would put in, old cabbages or anything like that, and the roosters would shred them apart and work that into the soil and feed the soil. And then any weeds that came up, the roosters were eating the weeds. And then at the end of the season, we had roosters, and then we had a cleaned out, fertilized space to put our new greenhouse.
Oh, that's great. Alrighty, so animals sometimes can be beneficial in your garden. Let's see. So Pamela Cannamore's class wants to know, do you use the native soil or do we bring in different soil?
We use the native soil as much as possible. So for this greenhouse, we did bring in some compost for our greenhouses. It kind of helps give them a jump start because none of this land was farmed on before. It was just kind of pasture, and it kind of been had like not great quality soil. So we're working a lot to improve the soil. And one of the ways we measure that is something called organic matter. So that's the amount of like living stuff in the soil. And so we've been able to take our soils from a 1% organic matter to about a 4% organic matter, which is great. That's a lot of carbon and life that's living in the soil that we've been able to add. So what we do is we do a soil test twice a year on all the garden space. Figure out what is kind of our baseline, what do we need to improve, what minerals need to be there, do we need to add compost. Another thing I like to do is I do what's called a cover crop. So that's planting something that you're not actually going to harvest. You're basically allowing it to grow, bring up minerals from deep in the soil, capture carbon from the atmosphere, and then you just work it back into the ground. And so that feeds the soil.
It's like a natural compost almost that you're growing in place.
Yeah, it's like growing compost in place.
So we mostly try to focus on the native soil. We build up that organic matter with compost and cover crops and just growing things in it, honestly. And, you know, when necessary, we amend the soil sometimes. And soil health is just critical, isn't it, to growing everything here.
The way that our livestock team talks about growing animals, especially our beef and our sheep that eat only grass, they're not fed any grain, is that they're not raising beef, they're raising grass. It's kind of the way they look at it. And I have the same attitude towards our plants, is that, you know, these tomatoes, there were already tomatoes in this place, in this spot earlier in the season that were past the rafters. This is the second planting, and they look great. That I'm not trying to feed the tomato, I'm trying to feed the soil. And so if I'm keeping the soil healthy and balanced and there's lots of worms and organic matter, then the tomatoes are just going to naturally benefit from that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, tomatoes this late in the year.
Yeah,
it's pretty incredible, right?
Some ugly, little bit ugly heirlooms, but they're very tasty.
So, but these are about finished, right?
Yeah, they'll wrap up, I think, in the next few weeks. We'll go ahead and just pick everything that's off of them now. And so they'll continue to ripen over the next few weeks.
Okay. Got some more questions coming in. Let's see. Are there any, Marlene Dedilectus wants to know, are there any green tops of the root vegetables, like radishes, that you cannot eat?
Ooh. I'm trying to think. I know rhubarb leaves. It's not really a root crop, but that is a crop that you can eat the stems of the rhubarb, but definitely not the leaves because they have oxalic acid. Which
gotcha. So maybe not rhubarb, Marlene.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see. Jackie Jensen asked a little bit ago what our current temperature is.
I think it's 60 right now.
Today it's 60, 60? And it's supposed to drop pretty soon, right?
Yeah, I think it might freeze on Sunday night.
Okay, yeah, well that's quite the swing. That's why we're putting all the fabric on everything.
Yep, it's a little early this year.
Let's see, Tucker Higgins asked, he noticed that we were digging up these potatoes and said that in their experience they are usually mounded. So why aren't these as mounded as other potatoes?
So these are just a different variety. These are from seed, and when I say seed, I mean true seed potatoes. They were, they're being developed, the variety's being developed and tested, and so we're just kind of helping the seed company figure out if this is a good variety, does it work for southern growers, things like that.
Right.
But you don't have to hill these potatoes. And we actually we put the seeds in soil, so just like a tomato transplant, and it grew into a little plant, and then we transplanted the potato plants.
Dream Angel's Garden says, I think potato leaves are toxic too. You ever heard that?
I don't know that. I've heard the same thing about tomatoes. People say don't eat green tomatoes or don't eat green tomato leaves, but then I also see recipes for tomato leaf pesto.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure. I would
well
continue to research it.
Good to know, Dream Angel's Garden. Thanks for sharing the tip. Let's see. Sarah Benedict, what's your favorite compost to use?
Actually, it's to not use compost. I know that seems counterintuitive for an organic gardener, but spreading the compost is troublesome. It takes a lot of effort, especially when there's only 4 people. And then also, we've struggled to find good compost that doesn't have plastic pollution in it. You know, if your municipality's collecting up, leaves, people have candy wrappers, cigarette butts in their leaves, they get raked in there, it goes into the compost, it never breaks down. And so I find trash in our compost sometimes. So I'm actually moving away from using any compost and just going towards growing our own fertility with the cover crops.
So cover crops are our favorite compost.
Cover crops is a favorite compost.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. All right, guys. Well, let me jump in here real quick. We've got about 10 minutes left for the live stream. We're going to end on time today to keep mindful of everybody's schedules. And we got a couple more things that we're going to show you. And so if you got any more last minute questions, make sure you get them in and we will be sure to answer them. We're going to leave the high tunnel now and go check out a couple pieces of equipment that we didn't get to show you and a big field of radishes.
Daikon radishes.
Radishes. All right, let's go see how we clean some of these root vegetables that we've been using. So we've shown you how we harvest, how we plant, and how we grow, but you got to get stuff ready, right?
Yeah, everything, once we harvest the root crops, same day, we have a team that's out in the field digging up the crops, and then a team that's in our wash and pack area that's washing the carrots or beets or radishes, packing them into bags for customers, and then putting them in the cooler. Once they're in the cooler, some of our crops, like the carrots, will last definitely 6 months without any, quality issues, and the radishes like 9 months.
So what is this? This is an actual different tool, right? What is it?
Yeah, so this is actually a cement mixer.
Okay.
And so put the bag cement, water, make cement.
We don't put cement in with our carrots or vegetables.
It has only used for food.
Gotcha.
So what I did is I just put some holes in the bottom, and there's actually a video on our YouTube page that you can click over after the live stream and check out, where I talk a little bit more about this. But holes in the bottom, some PVC arms to help flip the carrots over.
Like a washing machine almost.
Yeah, it's a washing machine.
Got the holes in there, the agitator PVC pipes, and it spins around. And what is this little orange and blue?
Yeah, so this garden hose connects here. I can adjust how much pressure I need.
It's pretty loud. Try not to move it too much.
Okay, I'll put it back. Whoop.
All right.
And so so I can load the carrots in, put the hose back in there, let it mix, and when it's done, I can pull that out, and then this whole thing is on a little swivel, and then I can dump my carrots out into our box, and then get them ready to be packaged.
Awesome. Head up to the water